Hello guys, today we're going to discuss to you the chapter 13, the season A7, Beijing switching, routing, and wireless essentials. Chapter 13, which the wireless configuration has five sorry guys, six parts, which the introduction, remote site wireless configuration, configure a basic wireless on the WLC, configure a WPA2 enterprise wireless on the WLC, troubleshoot VLAN issues, and lastly, the module props and summary. First, guys, we jump to the 13.1, which the remote site VLAN configuration. We have the video here of how to configure a wireless network. We jump to the wireless router. Remote workers, small branch offices, and home networks often use a small office and home router. These routers are sometimes called an integrated router because they typically include a switch for the wired clients, a port for an internet connection, sometimes labeled WAN, WAN, and wireless components for wireless clients access as shown for the Cisco Meraki MX64W in the figure. Here you can see the Cisco Meraki MX64W W sorry guys, routers. You can see the next figure showing that the topology depicting the physical connection of a wired laptop to the wireless router, which is then connected to a cable DSL and modem for the internet connectivity. Here we have the wireless router, our broadband modem, and the internet goes to the users. These wireless routers typically provide dual and security DHCP services, integrated name address translation, quality of services or QoS, as well as the variety of other features. The feature set will vary based on the router model. Next is the log into the wireless router. Most wireless routers are ready for service out of the box. They are pre-configured to be connected to the network and provide services. For example, the wireless router uses DHCP to automatically provide addressing information to connected devices. However, wireless router default IP addresses and usernames and passwords can easily be found on the internet. Just enter the search phrase default wireless router IP address or default wireless router passwords to see a listing of many websites that 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 provide this information. For example, username and password for the wireless router is in the figure is admin. Therefore, your first priority should be to change these defaults for a security reason. Because if you don't change the default password and username, maybe someone can log to your routers, or it might he or she might change your password on her own, or on his own by not you nor knowing. And to gain access to the wireless router's configuration GUI, open a web browser. In the address field, enter the default IP address for your wireless router. The default IP address can be found in the documentation that came with the wireless router, or you can search the internet. The figure shows here. You can see the figure. It shows the IPv4 address, which is 192.168.0.1, which is a common default for many manufacturers like PLDTs, Globe routers. A security window prompts for authorization to access the router GUI. The word admin is commonly used as the default username and password. Again, check your wireless router's documentation or search on the internet. Here you can see here the GUI of the authorization is the username, the password, same as admin. Next is the basic network setup. Basic network setups includes the following steps. Log into the router from our browser. Change the default administrative password. Log in with the new administrative password. Change the default DHCP IPv4 addresses. Renew the IP address. Or log in. And lastly is to log into the router with the new IP address. In logging to the router from our browser, after that, you can see here the GUI of the web browser of how to log into the router. After logging in, a GUI opens. The GUI will have tabs or menus to help you navigate the various router configuration tasks. It is often necessary to save the settings changed in one window before proceeding to another window. At this point, it is best to practice to make changes to the default settings. Next is to change the default administrative password. To change the default login password, find the administration portion of the router's GUI. In this example here, the administration tab was selected. This is where the router password can be changed on some devices, such as the one in the example. You can only change the password, but the username remains admin or whatever the default username is for the router you are configuring. Eh, and next is the login, the new administrative password. After you save the new password, the wireless router will request authorization again. Enter the username and new password as shown in the example. Here is the GUI of it, the authorization, and the username is still admin, but the password changed. Change the default DHCP IPv4 addresses. It is best to practice to use private IPv4 addressing inside your network. The IPv4 address 10.10.10.1 is used in the examples, but it could be any private addresses you choose. Sorry guys. Next is the renew the IP address. When you click save, you will temporarily lose access to the wireless router. Open a command window and renew your IP address with the ipconfig renew command as shown in the example. You can see here the command here. Lastly, the login to the router with the new IP address. Enter the router's new IP address to regain access to the router's configuration GUI as shown in this example. You are now ready to continue configuring the router for a wireless access. Next is the basic wireless setup. The basic wireless setup includes the following of the steps. First is view the WLAN defaults. Next, change the network mode. Third, configure the SSID. Fourth is configure the channel. Fifth, configure the security mode. Lastly is to configure the passphrase. In viewing the WLAN defaults, you should a wireless router provides a wireless access to devices using a default wireless network name and password. The network name is called the Service Set Identified, or the SSID. Locate the basic wireless settings for your router to change this default as shown in this example. So, see here guys. Next, change the network mode. Some wireless routers allow you to select which 802.11 standard to implement. The example shows that the legacy has been selected. Here you can see here the legacy is selected, and this means wireless devices connected to the wireless router can have the variety of wireless NICs installed today's wireless routers configured for legacy or mixed mode most likely support 802.11a or 802.11n or 802.11 AC links. Like this, deconfigure the SSID. Assign an SSID to VLANs. OfficeNet is used in the example. Here you can see here guys. Go to the configure the channel devices configured with the same channel within the 2.4 GHz band may overlap and cause distortions, slowing down the wireless performance and potentially break network connections. Configure the security mode. Um, Next, lastly, configure the passphrase. WPA2 personal uses a passphrase to authenticate wireless clients. WPA2 personal is easier to use in a small office or home environment because it does not require an authentication server. Larger organizations implement enterprise require wireless clients to authenticate with a username and password. Next, configure a wireless mesh network. In a small office or home network, one wireless router may suffice to provide wireless access to all the clients. However, if you want to extend the range beyond approximately 45 meters indoors and 98 meters outdoors, you can add wireless access points or the Wi-Fi extenders. As shown in this, the wireless mesh network is in the figure. Two access points are configured with the same WLAN settings from our previous example. That is that the channel is selected are 1 and 11 so that the access points do not interfere with the channel 6 and configured previously on the wireless router. Next is the NAT or for IPv4. Next is the quality of service. Many wireless routers have an option for configuring quality of service. By configuring quality of service, you can guarantee that certain traffic types such as voice and video are prioritized over the traffic that is not as time sensitive, such as email and web browsing anymore. Next is the port forwarding. Wirelessly routers typically block TCP and UDP ports to prevent unauthorized access in and out of LAN. However, there are situations when specific ports must be open so that certain programs and applications can communicate with devices on different networks. Port forwarding is a rule-based method of directing traffic between devices on separate networks. WLC topology. The access point is a controller-based AP as opposed to an autonomous AP, and we call it controller-based APs require no initial configuration and are often called lightweight APs. And the APs use the lightweight access point protocol to communicate with a one controller. Controller-based APs are useful in situations where many APs are required in the network. Log into WAC. Here's the how to log in. Let's see here. Next, we go to the troubleshooting, updating firmware, approaches, problem, verify documents findings, wireless clients not connecting when troubleshooting a VLAN, a process of elimination is recommended. Here in the figure, you can see a wireless LAN is not connecting to the VLAN. If there is no connectivity, check the following: confirm the network configuration of the PC using the ipconfig command. Verify that the PC has received an IP address via DHCP or is configured with the static IP address. Confirm that the device can connect to the wired network. Connect the device to the wired LAN and ping a known IP address. If necessary, reload drivers as appropriate. For the client, it may be necessary to try different wireless NIC. If the wireless NIC of the client is working, check the security mode and encryption settings of the client. The security settings do not match the client cannot gain access to the wallet. Next, the troubleshooting when the network is slow. To optimize and increase the bandwidth of 802.11 dual-band routers and APs, either upgrade your wireless clients, older 802.11b or 802.11 Gen, even 802.11n devices can slow down interval, and for the best performance, all wireless devices should support the same highest acceptable standard. Although 802.11ax was released in 2019, 802.11ac is the most likely the highest standard that enterprises can currently enforce. Split the traffic. The easiest way to improve wireless performance is to split the wireless traffic between 802.11 and 2.4 GHz band and the 5 GHz band. Therefore, 802.11 and over, you can use the two bands as two separate wireless networks to the help manage the traffic. And see here the example of the here updating the firmware. That's all guys for this chapter. Thank you for watching.